Hi, this is Jay.
This is Steve.
This is Bob.
We are Alpha Quadrant 6, a science fiction review show.
And guys, this is season 3, and in this season, we're going to be focusing on the science of science fiction.
We're going to take your favorite science fiction movies and look at the science, see how plausible it is, and maybe we'll learn a little bit of science along the way.
Yeah. So we're going to generally be, when we identify like a scientific aspect of a movie, we're going to break it down into 4 types of things that you can encounter. So one would be hard science, right? And this is a standard science fiction term. Hard science is when the writers try to get the science exactly correct as much as possible. So that means it's consistent with all of the laws of physics, with all of known science, no issues. Then there's soft science, which is they try to be consistent with science, but they're definitely making up new stuff. They're extrapolating what we currently know into the future, or assuming that things that right now are just hypothetical or theories are actually true. And then there are what we call gimmies. A gimme is basically magic. It's like, don't worry about it. We're just assuming that this is the way the universe works. Don't worry about how it works. It's critical to the plot, and just go with it. And we're fine, saying, yeah, that's a gimme. We're not going to worry about whether it's plausible or whatever. Like, for example, it's like, yeah, we need warp drive to warp around the universe in order for our stories to happen, right? So there's warp drive. Don't worry about how that works. Or there's metachlorians. Which is a terrible example.
A transporter in Star Trek.
And then there's whoppers. Whoppers are when they're like unforced errors, absolute violations of logic or science, and for no real reason, usually because it's just intellectually lazy or the writers don't understand the science. They just made a mistake.
And these are the ones that piss us off.
These are the ones that piss us off because they're unnecessary. Gimmies are tricky because you get a little bit of wiggle room. You get like one big gimme, but if you try to throw too many gimmies, then at some point you become fantasy. You're not even science fiction anymore.
Right.
And then I personally prefer movies that operate within the range of hard and soft science, where like it's all good, but you're making up some new stuff. But that's fine. You're trying to be reasonable. You're trying to not grossly violate the laws of physics. Now, the first franchise that we're going to talk about is
the Alien franchise.
The Alien franchise. We can talk about the whole franchise at once. There's no reason to break it down movie by movie. So Bob, let's start with Acid for Blood.
Ooh, Bob. Everybody wants acid blood.
Right. Do you guys I remember seeing this in the late 70s?
Yeah, 78, I think. 78, 79.
In the late 70s, and watching that scene, and that scene grabbed me and us, I think,
was very
almost more than any other scene. It was just like, damn, look at that. So much fun, so much fun. Looking at the science, though, was really fascinating. Okay, science. What is some really nasty acids that you guys are aware of?
Hydrochloric acid.
That's classic.
Sulfuric acid.
Those are nasty. The nastiest liquid superacid is fluoroantimonic. Mm-hmm. This stuff will eat through aluminum, steel, glass, almost anything you throw at it. It's nasty stuff.
But is it molecular acid?
Is it molecular acid? Who cares?
Is it naturally occurring?
What is non-molecular acid?
I'm not even sure.
They just threw that term out there to make it
sound. Sounds cool.
It sounds cool. Ooh, molecular acid.
It sounds good. So this stuff exists. And it's nasty. But think about what's happening in the movie, though. This acid spills out from the alien or the facehugger, and it eats through the deck plating in moments. It's going through the deck plating.
And it got through to the 3rd deck down, I think?
Yeah.
It just kept going.
2 full floors, and then it was eating away the next one.
But it wasn't going to go through it.
So how reasonable is that? First off, one of the things I learned is that fluoroantimonic acid will eat through almost anything except maybe Teflon, right? That's one of the things that it needs to be stored in. We don't ever have any like anti-gravity fields, right, to store it in. So Teflon works. There's not much else though that it won't just eat right through. So I discovered that the actual nastiness of the acid isn't as important as transport physics. It's the, can it diffuse down there? What are the bottlenecks that prevent it from eating away so fast? Because it's the speed that's really dramatic and really kind of anti-science. It's just the speed at which it eats through, and that's the thing that's really hard.
Because acid, remember, it's not like evaporating the material. It's reacting with it.
Yeah.
Which means it's got to become something else. It's a chemical reaction.
But wouldn't it just turn into heat?
No, it
heat's
matters.
there.
Some
Heat's
of-
there.
Yeah, but yeah, sometimes you like a chemical reaction can be exothermic and give off heat, absolutely.
Right.
But you're not turning all of that matter into heat because that would be E equals mc squared, right? That's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit of it gets given off as heat. You're turning it into some other substance, whatever that is, and that would form like a skin on top of whatever it is you're eating through. And that would slow down the chemical reaction further.
Right. So if you're looking
Unless
at
you're constantly mixing it up, which wasn't happening.
Well,
Right.
But Bob, is there like an acid that we don't know about or we could create that could be even stronger, or
Yeah, so but sure, why not? We could make there is another acid that's stronger. It's helion is one of the names for it, but it's gaseous. It's not liquid, so that doesn't really count. It's nastier, but it's different. It's really not a
chemically
player.
define acid?
Huh?
Should we chemically define acid?
If you want, go right ahead.
Yeah, an acid is just a chemical that contributes a hydrogen ion. That's it. And a base,
proton, right?
Yeah, and a base accepts a hydrogen atom or proton.
Right.
Defines a type of chemical reaction. So if an acid has a lot of free hydrogen that it can contribute to combine to other things to chemically react with
Right.
them and to chemically burn them. But again, it has to go at the rate of a chemical reaction and the physics of the,
Right.
then you get into stoichiometry, which is basically the ratio of things.
That's a word.
Yeah, and how that works. So if you had an optimal mixture where you're constantly exposing the acid to the substrate, the substance that it's combining
Right.
with, eating through, then that would make it go faster. But if it's just sitting there in a pool, it's going to be pretty slow reaction.
Right. So if you look at some comparisons, this alien acid is eating through, say, many millimeters per second. It's going through, and that's kind of probably even generous. But if you look at something like fluoroantimonic acid, it would be 10,000 times slower. It's far, 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 far slower. So this is what you would need to make this physics transport physics actually work for you. You would need to heat the acid, and you would need to heat the deck plating, make it much hotter. You would need to have the acid under pressure, because what you need to do is, because you've got things like vapor barriers that are appearing, you have, like the Leidenfrost effect, those vapor barriers are showing up, there are skins that appear on it, and diffusion rates are only go at a specific pace. So all of those things are making it hard. So you got to blast those away with acid under pressure. You would need probably 20 aliens of worth of blood, not just a little bit of blood. You would need a lot of blood, because you need to have the fresh acid exposed to the reacting surface much more quickly. So you need to have all these things in play before you could really deal with this whole transport physics problem. But even then, it would still be far, far slower than what we're seeing in the movie. So the bottom line is that it's just way too slow, even with much more powerful acid. It's more of an industrial technique to make it happen even remotely fast, as opposed to a biological technique.
So where would you rate it?
Well, first, but then what about the idea of blood? This is not only an acid, this is also a blood. And even that is extremely problematic, to have any kind of biology that we know of or can even really imagine.
So it's
this acid
inside of its blood vessels have to be lined with Teflon.
like a Teflon.
Well, he looks like he's made out of Teflon.
Is evolving Teflon even reasonable, or something that could heal? Much more likely would be an acid organ, a discrete organ that could spew it, and not as blood circulating.
The thing is, it's clearly blood. Because
we know that. We know that.
That's canon, and it's everywhere.
Right.
Right. So because it's flowing through anywhere they get cut, it spew it out.
Yeah, like in Aliens, when they were shooting them, like acid was
Now
flying
we
everywhere.
don't know that it's literally an oxygen carrier, though. We don't know.
No, we don't know. There's very little we really know.
It could be some other biological fluid that serves some purpose.
Non-aqueous as well, because it doesn't react well. These acids usually don't act well with water, so it'd be even non-aqueous, which places another constraint to the evolution, because
the biology of it's interesting. In the movie Aliens, Bishop mentions that as almost like a throwaway line. After they die, the acid oxidizes and gets neutralized.
Yeah, he says.
So that means it's not carrying oxygen, because it would be oxidized, right?
From the get-go.
So right there, I think they threw that line out because he was dissecting them, and it was explaining why they're not just bleeding acid everywhere.
Right.
But it kind of goes against the notion that it's blood. You know?
But, and also, like, biologically, you know, it is like if a human was the host, it has like some human traits, right? Like that, the typical version of the alien that we see, the first version,
DNA.
it has a human-like skull inside of that head. If you've ever seen that, it's really cool. So, you know, human biology wouldn't play well with the acidic blood.
Absolutely
either.
not.
And is it breathing oxygen? Is that creature breathing oxygen?
It hisses. It looks like it's breathing.
Well, it was.
And there's oxygen in the air. It's breathing.
Too.
I mean, it could survive in space for quite a while if you look
it could
at
even
Alien
scream in
Earth.
space, despite the subtitle in space. No one could hear you scream. We hear the alien screaming in space.
Yeah.
That was to get people to go to the movie.
I know. I'm just saying.
It was a great tagline.
It's ironic.
And what else? I mean, we have microbes on Earth that have an affinity for acid, but even they don't. They keep it protected on the outside. They don't have it. It doesn't mingle with their interior
I would
cellular
say,
machinery.
I would say this is soft science, but towards the implausible end of the soft science. It's not the speed with it. You're going to call that a whopper? Like that's just impossible.
I'm calling this a gimme. Because if you look at the history of the making of the movie, they were like, for like the second act of the movie, they're like, we need a reason why they can't just kill this alien, right? People are going to be screaming at the screen, just kill the damn thing. So they came up with the idea of this acid blood. And to me, one of the essences of the gimme is that it's servicing the plot and the story. So this definitely applies in that scenario.
It's true. It also, not only that,
it's ambiguous.
It also explained why they couldn't cut the face hugger off of Kane.
Yes.
That was the big reason.
That was the other
It's
one.
brilliant writing, and I get it. And to me, I like it better in the gimme category because it's a huge component of the show. It's the cool factor alone. Like the cool factor of acidic blood. I mean, we're still talking about it, guys, right? Like it's a mainstay. So that's cool. I definitely think it's a gimme and not a whopper because mostly I don't get pissed off at it at all.
Right. Yeah, we loved it, and they clearly needed it for the story. And the transport physics is the big killer, which in my mind is not soft science.
So since we're talking about the Xenomorph,
okay.
let's just move on to some big picture about Xenomorph biology. And we're going to focus on the growth rate, just that. I want to just focus on the growth rate. Everything else about it, again, is kind of, it's a gimme, it's a monster, it does, all this stuff. So in Alien, we see the creature, right, it gets, the facehugger implants the embryo in Kane, and basically in 24 hours, we actually have a good number on that, because they say it'll take us 24 hours to get the ship ready to go again. Then it bursts, does the chest burster thing, right? And it comes out, it's like a snake, it's this long or something, head is about that far around. And then we don't have a hard number on the time, but we're talking within a day, I would say, right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Within about a day, it goes from that to a fully grown xenomorph. Where did all the mass come from? That it added onto itself.
That's annoyed me for decades.
That's annoyed me for decades too. In the Alien franchise, is there ever a scene of the alien eating?
No.
Do the xenomorphs ever eat? Why implant it in a host if you're not then going to eat the host? Most parasites, when they lay their eggs in a creature, it's because that's a good place to lay their eggs. Most of the time, it's because when the eggs hatch, they consume the host, right? Why did the chest burster consume Kane?
Yeah.
It could consume him. It would have been, I know this is the drama thing. You want the guy thrashing around and then the thing comes out of his chest. I think in reality, he would just die. The creature would eat him from the inside out and then burst through his corpse. They could have done it that way.
Yeah.
I would love that.
They wanted the drama of bursting out of a live host.
Of
but
course.
That means he didn't eat much of him.
Plus, that bursting scene, the fellow actors around him didn't know what was going to happen, so the shock and terror in their faces was actually genuine.
They
which
knew
is great.
the scene was going to happen, but they didn't know the details. They didn't know that blood was going to be shot on
It's
them.
a great scene. It's
awesome.
an objectively great scene.
So I think
it sheds its skin, which is like a snake skin. It's like this big.
There you go.
It's a huge xenomorph.
So how much do you think the xenomorph weighs? Like
It's got to be a couple 100 pounds.
at least.
It's huge.
No, way more.
We don't know
than
how
that.
dense it is.
That's the thing.
Yeah, the density is not.
It can't be.
But it's mostly water, or mostly liquid, like most things.
So one thing I was thinking was that like maybe when the egg goes in, if it was super dense, if it had everything it needed to grow that thing, right, super dense, that would mean like it has 300 pounds worth of weight to it.
Which it didn't.
Clearly it didn't, because that was...
So the only thing you could say is that it's like dehydrated, right? So it contains all of the necessary non-water parts, and then it somehow there is water on the ship. It could have been sucking up 200 pounds of water and inflating.
And there was like rain in that ship.
There was condensation, and there was a lot of water. So that's one way to make it plausible.
That's the best thing I've ever heard.
I
like it because otherwise it's goofy. Yeah,
because that's what happens with creatures like insects, right? They have what's called the imaginal discs, which means it's like the adult form in a little pebble, a little piece of tissue, and that creates the caterpillars have these little things. It's the butterfly in a condensed form, and then it goes into its chrysalis and it becomes the butterfly.
And I haven't seen it in any of the movies at all. Like anything between the first creature that comes out, like you don't see them in stages.
Between the snake and the xenomorph,
you only see the skin shed once, right?
Once, right? One skin shed.
So they're not going there.
Yeah. Well, later movies like Alien Earth, has shown the littler guys
that are in the process of getting bigger.
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, you have to. It's really good.
But we don't know what they're doing. This is the thing that this is core to this.
Yeah, we're just making stuff up. We're trying to retcon this, but there's not in canon. They don't really talk a lot about.
Movie canon. Yeah, don't forget the games and the books.
Yeah, the RPG I think is where they really spell things out. But we don't know if that's canon for the movies though.
Right, we're focusing on the movies, right?
Yeah,
definitely.
And when an alien captures somebody, they like Dallas.
They either kill them or they cocoon them. They never consume them.
They don't. Yeah, you don't see any eating. Like it definitely bit at two of the people and killed them that way. But it didn't seem like it was a food thing. It was more of an attack.
Yeah.
Plus, it has that inner jaw that certainly does not look. It's not shaped to eat. It's shaped to attack.
That's a good point.
So what are they doing?
Maybe they use their acid to liquefy their
and they suck it up with that thing on their back.
Interesting.
No, it's all so that I think we're in Whopper territory.
Or gimme,
but it doesn't connect to anything legitimate.
It's just that it's a monster that's very mysterious. We don't understand how it works, and it becomes active very quickly. It is definitely in service to the plot. Almost all the Alien franchise movies have one thing in common: a very compressed timeline. It's even more compressed in the Alien Regulus or Romulus. Alien Romulus, where it's basically it was okay Romulus, but it was basically took all the good pieces of Alien and Aliens and then reshuffled them and made a new movie out of them. Deliberately so, even down to certain lines. But they kind of compressed everything. He was even faster than the 24-hour timeline. Crazy.
So Ash says when they're interviewing him at the end, when his head is off, he says, "I admire its purity." Coming from a total
logical point of
logical zero moral perspective, he's talking about, and I think it's important information. The thing is it's a rage machine. It's all about survival and attack. So it does make sense internally that it has to grow really quick. It has to be super powerful.
Sure.
And I am okay. I'm slightly okay with not knowing, but it does dance a little bit in the gimme Whopper territory because I don't think there could be a really, really good answer that satisfies all the checkboxes.
I mean, it's extreme biology, so we're kind of that is sort of the gimme part of this. It's this really extreme biology, acid for blood, killing machine, very fast, growth spurt. So. But it would be nice, and I like when movies do this, where they think about this. Rather, it's like we want it to be, full size in hours. Just make it happen. Don't worry about it. It's a monster. It's a mystery. Don't worry about it. Versus having some idea how that could possibly work. Especially in the later versions where you do have an Alien Earth, where people are investigating it. Like you have scientists looking at it. It's so easy to have a throwaway line.
Of course,
that would.
It satisfies.
That would be very satisfying in terms of, all right, they thought about it and there's a thoughtful explanation here. That moves it into gimme territory and may even move it into soft science territory if it's plausible enough.
Potentially.
Depending on how good a job that they do of it. But leaving it in the don't worry about it. It's a monster. It happens.
It all happens off stage.
It's very unsatisfying. All right, the final one thing, Jay, you're gonna talk about the cryonics, the suspended animation, which is a critical part of the plot of this.
All right, so the word cryonics, the definition is freezing a human. Cryogenic means freezing anything else. Let's just make that distinction because
like the science of freezing.
Yeah. So even like the screenplay writers like get that term wrong, and I just think it's a silly thing to mix up. Anyway, so what do we have? We have like in the first movie, like this is the first time, of course, any of us have seen it, and the lights go on, and you can see all the crew members that are in these pods. You know, when the door opens, you know, they slowly wake up and come to. We don't really get the sense there that there's any kind of freezing happening, but they talk about it that way. In the movie Aliens, we do for the first time see like condensation, frozen condensation on the glass, and
Ripley's,
and then there's more comments about it. We get a sense that okay, they are actually like at low temperature, but
and then it warms up before they get out, so that you see it with the crystallized condensation, and then you see it with no condensation. They've clearly warmed up the cryo chambers, and that's when they wake up.
Right.
So there's definitely a cooling when they're in cryo. They are very cold. What we don't know, and I couldn't find that this was clearly established anywhere in canon, is are they sub-freezing or above freezing?
Yeah.
Because that's two very different worlds.
And I know quite a bit about cryonics. The bottom line is, with our current understanding and the technology that's used today, because people do get whole body and neuro, just their heads frozen, is that they need to do perfusion, and they're using a liquid to do it, so it can go into every nook and cranny in the human body, right? You know,
like
about
an antifreeze.
Yeah, so like
none of that happens in.
We're not seeing the tank fill up with water, you know, and it's just it's.
They have no IV running.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So
they just go to sleep.
It doesn't really seem like either they didn't know when they first wrote it, because the technology, you know, was nothing back then. The bottom line is there's a problem there, because we don't have enough information, and it's functioning in a particular way, because they say things like they don't age when they're frozen. You know, like when Ripley gets out of stasis in the second movie, in the movie Aliens.
It's been 57 years, and the actress aged, what, 8 years?
7 years.
7 years.
But in the movie, she didn't age at all.
Right, right.
So that means
But do they say that exactly, like at all, or is it just very little?
Well, I don't think there's a distinction between the two, but the intent in the movie was that she didn't age.
But we don't know that.
Yeah.
No, how do you know that? That's never explicitly said.
But that is what in other sources that is a definite thing. Like the aging process is supposed to be dramatically slowed. Or
dramatically slowed is different than stopped, because to stop it you'd need to freeze.
Yeah.
You could slow it down significantly to where, her having aged a couple of years in 57 years kind of could make sense.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of, I think, again, this is sort of in the gimme range. But if we're trying to say, how could it possibly make sense? It's hard to imagine that they're freezing them, right? Because nothing is happening. The only thing I could imagine, which is, I'm just making this up, trying to retcon it, is that people have been genetically engineered to be able to be frozen.
What?
That they have tardigrade DNA or whatever. I don't know. If you're going to be...
All right, that's something. That's something to hold on to.
They never mentioned that.
But wait, you have to be engineered before you're born, or could it be post-birth that they
could be post-birth.
Depends on how sophisticated
have CRISPR them up so that they could be sustained cryo.
I mean, that makes way more sense than anything else.
Either that, or it's got to be some kind of radiation field or something in the cryo chamber that is having whatever effect they need it to have. Because there's certainly nothing biological happening. They just get in there and go to sleep.
You don't even see like a gas release.
Nothing.
Anything.
There's no gas. They don't have an IV going. There's nothing.
Yeah, they're just very unimaginative.
It's just the chamber, cools you down and keeps you in suspended animation.
It's probably budget related. They didn't want to add all that extra expense to the budget.
But they didn't think about it or give us the throwaway line to explain what's happening.
Right.
And then, Bob, multiple movies later, they still never...
They're sticking with the
it's just, they go, it's cold. All we know is it's cold and they're in suspended animation. Right. That's all we really know.
I think it's a gimme. It works in the story.
I like it as a plot device because we're going to talk about this in part 2, like the FTL and how distances and time travel. So it takes a long time to get anywhere in space, and it makes sense to save resources and everything to just put people in cryo, and then they wake up at their destination rather than having to spend months, or in alien Earth, years. I mean, their mission was 67 years.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that. That you have to have cryo. You have to have some kind of way of
real stasis. Yeah.
You don't want to send a generation ship. Oh my God.
Either generation ship, or you have to put yourself into a robot, or whatever. Something you got to send robots.
But
and not people.
I think it's a gimme because today there is no equivalent that functions, right? People are being frozen, but no one has been unfrozen. And we could be 50, 100 years away from maybe even getting close to doing that.
Yeah, the cellular damage is just too great.
I mean, they could have made it seem like hibernation. Hibernation's fine, and, inducing hibernation is not implausible.
And with a low temperature, you could slow down
you could slow down their metabolism, but even still...
Technological support needs to be dramatic.
There would need to be more technological support, and people would need to bulk up, because they're living off their body. When you hibernate, you're living off your body's fat stores. None of that
unless they're being fed that intravenously.
But there's no intravenous.
I know. I'm just saying as an idea, they could have done that very easily. Again, this smacks of cool idea.
No detail.
No one really even thought about it. And then they kind of just rinse and repeat whenever they do it. It's basically the same thing with not much addition to give us more scientific things to measure.
The hallmark of a gimme in my mind.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, because there's so little information there, it helps the plot for sure.
It's not ridiculous because again, people are being frozen today.
It is the way it's depicted. It is because we cannot make sense of what's being depicted.
Exactly.
Yeah, we have to go to maybe they're genetically engineered, like the humanity.
You have to make up
is engineered, so
things like that. But you can try to retcon it, but it's not explained in the canon. It's not the way as shown. It's hard to make sense of it.
It doesn't break the movie.
I think it doesn't. But they're just doing it as a gimme. I agree.
Yeah, gimme.
And it is great for the plot.
All right, guys. Final take on Acid Blood. I say it's a gimme.
I'd say it's a gimme too.
All right, I'll go gimme on that one.
Okay, Acid Blood is a
gimme. And what about the Xenomorph growth rate? I'm going to call that a whopper.
Yeah, it has to be a whopper.
It's a big, juicy whopper.
Yeah. All right. Growth rate is a whopper.
All right, now we got the Cryosleep, guys. I'm going to definitely give the Cryosleep I think it's a gimme-ish whopper. Gimme.
I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to call that a whopper too. Otherwise, everything's a gimme. Break the tie.
I'm gonna have to say, since it is so little information for a soft science and it's in service of the plot, I'm giving it a gimme.
All right, it's a
gimme. Join us for part 2 when we're going to talk about FTL and space travel, and we're going to talk about
gravity,
and androids. We'll see you then.